Okay guys, FS Thunderbolt Fan 1000 here. Here to do a carnivorous plant tutorial. Today's not really episode thing, but little show how to do thing. We are going to be repotting Nepenthes ventrata in a nicer terracotta pot because it usually is in my living room, and I want it to look nicer so that way my mom doesn't have as big of a fit anymore because it's just in a cheap plastic little pot now with a price tag on it. I don't really like it. But to start off today's video, I will give you a little information where you can get a cheap terracotta pot if you don't really have the money to get one in store, because they're not too pricey in store, but depends where you go. If you go to cons, they're going to be a little more pricey than they are if you go to Walmart and that. So now, if you can see, if you can go find one at a estate sale, that's your best option, because as you can see, this one was only $1 on full price. Now, the estate sales around here, first day, so Thursday and Friday, it's full price. Wait, no, Thursday it's full price, and Friday it is 25% off, and Saturday it is 50% off, and Sunday 75% off, and Monday it's still 75% off. So that's your best option. I think I went on Sunday to get this pot, and it was only around 25 cents, so I got a good deal on it. But I did have to buy the bottom saucer, and that's a good plan for if you're going to do that, because when you water your carnivorous plants, it's going to generate a lot of water dripping out because you got to go healthy on it. This plant was originally only potted in peat moss. This new blend I put in this one is 50% peat, 50% perlite, and as you can see, it is dripping perlite and peat everywhere. For my peat, I just use Schultz perlite, Schultz peat, and then for perlite, I use Schultz perlite. Yeah, make sure there's no nutrients in there, because otherwise you're going to be screwed over. For water, I just get it out of my tap and let it sit for 2 to 3 or for however long as I need it. Well, till I need it. That's why I usually have 2 bottles on hand distilling, because for carnivorous plants you need to distill the water, otherwise you're going to be screwed because they cannot use regular water. Otherwise, because they need nutrient poor water. And so that's why I let my water distill for longer than a day. Technically, if you let it sit a day, it's distilled water, but I usually let mine at least 2 days. This is actually 4 days distilled, so because it gets the minerals to evaporate. So let's get started. I have my old terrarium here, also known as a 10-gallon fish tank, so that way I can keep everything all neat and tidy. As you can see, it was dry. This came out with ease, the inside of the pot, the old pot. Now, next what we're going to do is just break off all the old peat moss into here. With my experience when I repotted my Miranda, I found that the roots are generally towards the top, but here I'm encountering the roots more towards the bottom. Yeah, this one has a weird smell to it. As you can see, the top peat was drying out faster than the bottom, so I thought I was letting it go too long without water, but apparently I was not. And FYI guys, if you're going to repot, best time to do it is in spring, because something's up with the plants in spring, and that's when they like to be disturbed if they have to be. And only do if it's necessary. This, as you could clearly tell, this guy was getting too big for his pot. One of the dead ventratas pulling out. Oh, you guys, I'll bring this up by you. Well, I'm not quite sure what it's called, but the exotic place that Cons gets these from started the cuttings off in these like little paper towel like peat sacks. Then they just dropped it in the pot. So that's kind of how they did that. Yeah, as you can see, they saw my face there. Not too worried, because it's the first time I've ever showed my face before. But with this guy here, I am actually going to try and separate him out of this little thing that might be restricting his growth. Oh, it's called Morning Dew. That's where they get these plants. morningdew.com. Not for little residential buyers, but they do more with retail. Now, it helps if you'd pour some water on there, but with this guy, he's not really putting up too big of a fight. So, got some nice roots here. Now, this should come off pretty easily. It's just wrapped around here. Just a little fiber thing. Got some runners. Some roots. Yeah, this guy's in that little sack thing pretty tight. Just yank it off there. There we go. Here he is. Not too pretty, but kind of like a little tree. It's got a couple basal shoots. I think it's got 2. But here he is. Pick him up by you guys. Here. And there's the roots. So next we're going to stick them in this new pot. So we're going to set them down here. Take the tank off. And we're going to set that down there. And start your pot. Just to make sure, you guys, at the bottom of your pot, always make sure to put a rock first, because you don't want the huge hole in the bottom leaking all your water out. So what you're going to want to do is have some peat mix off, perlite mix off to the side, because you're going to need to take some out. I like to try and get my plants as close to the center as possible, because that makes them look nicer, not just completely off to the side like mine was. So we're just going to keep going off to the side here till we reach the depth that we're going to need. Just a little bit deeper here. I'm going to make room for the roots too, so the roots aren't all completely just tangled. So right now, I ended up with a hole about this deep, if you can kind of see, and that wide, but maybe just a tad more out. Now we're going to put them in, hold them there while I add some peat, perlite mix. Yeah, and now would be a good time to take the, yank off the basal shoots if you really wanted to, because they're accessible, but I'm leaving mine on because it makes I personally think it makes the plant look a little bit nicer with some lower pitchers, because at the moment it's making upper pitchers because it is vining stage now. It's in its vining stage, so we're just going to keep turning it here and packing it in there. Didn't end up being too centered, but it's okay. Not gonna complain. It's not too bad. It's not completely off to the side like it was in its old pot. So just keep packing it down in there. And that's almost about good there. Let's top off the sides here with a little. Yeah, you can be pretty much messy. This is just a little metal table. I'll just sweep it into a trash can. All of my mess I'm making here. And don't think, if you're doing this at your house, it's not going to get messy, because you're going to take time. It still gets messy. And sometimes it'll take longer. Let's say your pot had 2 plants and you want to separate the 2 plants, like I did with my Aunt Miranda, the bigger pitcher plant that had the pitcher last year that I kept gawking at during that one video. It took me a good solid 2 hours with that plant between getting it out of the pot and getting the sphagnum off. Well, getting the peat off and that. So, and dividing and repotting. But that upstairs was one was the complete sphagnum blend and one was a complete peat blend, but they both had perlite in it. So next we're just going to add a tad bit of water because this was already a little bit pre-moistened. Just scatter a little. And just an FYI, I'm not going to be using that Schultz's peat for too long because I'm going to start going with the Premier peat moss because I can get it in bulk and cheaper than what the Schultz's is because it's like, I think I got that one for $3.47. I think it was $3.47. So it's a little pricey. So, yeah. There it is done. Nepenthes ventrillata, all nice and repotted for upstairs. So that's pretty much it. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. It's my first time saying that, so if you think I'm being a little bit too pushy, just leave a comment below saying, hey, it's getting a little too pushy, and knock it off. But that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found it helpful. Happy growing.